My
At my
best friend of
father's
10 years
funeral.
looked me right in
I
the
thought
eye and
the
told me
hardest
he was
part
broke.
would be seeing the
His
casket.
emails, though,
I was wrong
they told a
halfway
completely
through the
different
service.
story. A
The
story of
funeral
how he
director
stole my entire
handed
life
me a cream
savings,
envelope. My name was on
$100,000,
it.
in
At
a
my
single
father's funeral.
wire transfer.
I thought the
This is
hardest
how I
part
caught him.
would be seeing
But
the
this isn't just
casket.
about
I was
losing
wrong
money.
halfway
It's about
through
the
the
crushing
service.
weight of being
The funeral
betrayed by
director
someone you thought of as a
handed me a
brother.
cream
It's about
envelope.
the
My
shame,
name was
the
on it.
anger,
At my
and the
father's
cold,
funeral.
hard proof
I
that
thought
turned
the
my
hardest
world
part would be
upside
seeing the
down.
casket.
And it's a
I was
warning,
wrong
because
halfway
the
through
same
the
game he
service.
played on me
The
is part of a
funeral
much
director
bigger, more
handed me a
sophisticated
cream
problem,
envelope.
accelerated
My
by
name was on it.
AI,
At my
that's
father's
destroying
funeral.
lives
I
every
thought the
single
hardest
day.
part
To get
would
how
be
I could
seeing
let
the
this happen,
casket. I
you
was
have to
wrong
understand my
halfway through the
friendship with
service.
Mark.
The
We weren't
funeral
just
director
friends, we were
handed me a
family.
cream
We
envelope.
met back in
My name
college, a
was
couple
on
of
it.
broke
At my
kids trying to
father's
figure things
funeral.
out.
I
We were the
thought the
best man
hardest
at each
part
other's
would be
weddings.
seeing the
I was there when
casket.
his first
I
kid was
wrong
born.
halfway
Our
through the
families
service.
spent holidays
The
together.
funeral director
He was the guy I'd call at
handed
3
me a
a.m.
cream
with a flat
envelope.
tire,
My
no
name was
questions
on it.
asked.
At my
He was
father's
reliable.
funeral.
He was
I
my
thought
brother.
the hardest part
For
would
10
be seeing
years,
the
that's
casket.
exactly
I
who he
was wrong
was.
halfway through
Financially,
the service.
our lives went
The
in different
funeral
directions.
director
I was
handed
always
me
the
a cream
saver.
envelope.
From my
My
very
name was
first
on
job,
it.
I
At my
carefully put
father's
away a
funeral.
piece of every
I
single
thought the
paycheck.
hardest part
I
would
drove
be seeing
old
the
cars,
casket.
packed my
I was
lunch,
wrong
and lived
halfway
below
through
my
the
means.
service.
It
The
was never
funeral
about getting
director
rich. It was about
handed me
building
a
a
cream
future,
envelope.
about
My
having
name
some
was on it.
security.
At my father's
After a
funeral.
decade of boring,
I thought the
unglamorous
hardest
hard
part
work,
would be seeing
I'd
the
saved
casket. I was wrong
$100,000.
halfway through the
To me,
service.
that number was
The
everything.
funeral
It was a
director
down payment on a
handed me a
house.
cream
It was the
envelope.
freedom
My
to maybe
name was
start my
on
own
it.
business
At my
one day.
father's funeral.
It was my safety
I
net.
thought the hardest
My
part
entire
would be
life's
seeing
work,
the casket.
just sitting
I
in a
was
savings
wrong
account.
halfway through the service.
Mark, on the other
The
hand,
funeral
always
director
seemed to be chasing the
handed me a
next big
cream
idea.
envelope. My name
He was
was
brilliant,
on it. At my
charismatic,
father's
but he could
funeral.
never quite catch
I
a
thought
break.
the hardest part
There was always
would
a
be seeing
deal
the
that almost
casket. I
closed,
was wrong
an investor
halfway
who
through the
bailed at the
service.
last second,
The
a
funeral
market turn that
director
wiped him out.
handed me a
He'd
cream
talk about it over
envelope. My
beers,
name was
the
on
frustration
it. At my
obvious in his
father's
voice,
funeral.
but he was
I
always
thought the
optimistic
hardest
about the
part
next
would be
thing.
seeing the casket.
And I never
I
judged
was
him
wrong
for it.
halfway
I
through the
admired his
service.
hustle.
The
He had a
funeral
family,
director
and he was doing whatever
handed
it
me a
took.
cream envelope.
I'd lend him
My
a few
name was
$100
on it.
here and
At
there,
my
and he
father's
always paid it
funeral.
back. He
I
was
thought
my
the
friend.
hardest part
I
would
believed
be
in him.
seeing the
I saw
casket.
his struggle
I
as
was
a
wrong
temporary
halfway
state,
through the
not a
service.
flaw in his
The
character.
funeral director
He was a good man who was
handed
just
me a
down on
cream
his luck.
envelope. My
That's what
name
I
was
told
on
myself.
it. At my
That's what I
father's
truly
funeral.
believed.
I thought the
He knew
hardest
about my
part would be
savings.
seeing the
It wasn't a
casket.
secret I
was
flaunted,
wrong
but over
halfway
the
through
years, talking
service.
about our
The
futures, it came
funeral
up.
director
He knew what that money meant
handed
to
me
me.
a cream
He'd even
envelope.
joke about
My
it
name was
sometimes,
on
saying,
it. At my
"Man, you're so
father's funeral.
disciplined. One day
I
I'll
thought
get
the
there."
hardest part would be
Looking
seeing
back,
the
it's
casket.
chilling.
I was
He didn't
wrong
see my
halfway
discipline as
through the
something to
service.
admire. He
The
saw it as a
funeral director
resource to be exploited.
handed me a cream
He saw my
envelope.
life's
My
work as
name
his
was on it.
personal
At
emergency
my father's
fund.
funeral.
He was playing
I
the
thought
long
the
game,
hardest part
building a
would be
foundation
seeing
of
the
trust
casket.
so
I
deep
was wrong
that when he
halfway
decided to
through the
tear it
service.
down, I
The
would be the
funeral
one to hand him
director
the dynamite.
handed
The
me a
beginning of the
cream
end
envelope.
started with
My
a phone
name was
call.
on it. At my
I was having a
father's
great
funeral.
week, actually.
I thought
I'd
the
just started
hardest part
seriously
would
looking
be
at
seeing the
houses
casket.
and was
I
talking to
was
my
wrong
bank about
halfway
getting
through the
pre-approved
service.
for a mortgage.
The funeral
The
director
first step was to move my
handed me a cream
$100,000
envelope.
out of
My
a
name was on
low-yield
it.
savings
At my
account
father's
and into
funeral.
one with a better
I thought
return.
the hardest part would
I'd
be
mentioned
seeing
this
the
plan to
casket.
Mark just a
I
few
was
days
wrong
before.
halfway through
Then
the
my phone
service.
rang.
The
It was
funeral
him.
director
The sound of his
handed me a
voice.
cream envelope.
It was just pure
My name
panic.
was on it. At my
"Dude, I'm in
father's
trouble."
funeral.
Well, not
I
trouble,
thought the
it's an
hardest
opportunity,
part would be
but it's
seeing the
about to slip
casket.
through my
I
fingers.
was wrong halfway through
He
the
launched
service.
into this frantic,
The funeral
breathless story.
director
A commercial
handed me a
real estate
cream
deal he'd been
envelope.
working
My
on for
name was
months
on it.
suddenly
At
came
my
through.
father's funeral.
The seller had another
I
offer
thought
but
the
would go
hardest
with Mark
part
if he
would
could
be
close
seeing the
immediately.
casket. I was
He needed a
wrong
big
halfway
deposit to
through the
secure the
service.
property by the end of
The
the day.
funeral director
He said he had the money, but
handed
it
me
was
a
tied
cream
up in a term
envelope.
deposit deposit
My
that he
name
couldn't
was on
touch
it
for another
at my
week without a
father's
huge
funeral.
penalty.
I
He
thought
just
the
needed a
hardest
bridge
part
loan,
would be
a
seeing the
float.
casket.
He asked
I
for
was wrong halfway
$100,000.
through the service.
Every
The
alarm bell
funeral
in my
director
head should have been
handed
screaming,
me a cream
but they were all
envelope.
silenced
My
by
name was on
one
it at
powerful
my
thought.
father's funeral.
This is Mark.
I thought the
This is my
hardest
best
part
friend.
would be seeing the
His
casket.
voice was
I
filled with a
was wrong
desperation I'd
halfway
never
through the
heard.
service.
This wasn't him
The
asking for
funeral
$100.
director
This
handed me
sounded
a
like
cream
his one
envelope.
big
My
shot,
name was
the
on
moment
it
that could
at my
change
father's
everything for
funeral.
his family.
I thought the
I
hardest
hesitated.
part would be
Mark,
seeing the
man, that's
casket.
everything I
was
have.
wrong halfway
I was
through
literally
the
about to
service.
move it from my house.
The funeral director
I know,
handed me a
know,
cream
he said, his
envelope.
voice
My
cracking.
name was
I
on
wouldn't
it
ask if
at
it
my
wasn't life
father's
or death.
funeral.
I swear on my
thought the
kids'
hardest
lives
part
you'll have it
would
back
be
in
seeing
10
the
business
casket.
days.
I was
The
wrong
deal
halfway
closes,
through
my
the
funds are
service.
released, and the
The
money is
funeral
back in your
director
account. I'll
handed
even
me
pay
a
you
cream
interest.
envelope.
You
My
are
name
literally
was on
saving
it
my
at
life
my
right
father's
now.
funeral.
He was
I
pushing
thought the
every
hardest
button he
part
knew I
would be
had.
seeing the
My
casket.
loyalty,
I
my
was
trust,
wrong
my
halfway through
empathy
the
for his
service.
long struggle.
The funeral
He knew I
director
saw him as a good guy in
handed
a
me
tough
cream
spot.
envelope.
And he
My
used
name
that
was on
image
it
perfectly.
at my
The
father's
emotional
funeral.
toll of a financial
I thought
betrayal
the
is
hardest
so
part
devastating
would be seeing
because
the
it's not just a
casket. I was
transaction.
wrong halfway
It's a
through the
profound
service.
violation of your
The
most
funeral
basic
director
relationships.
handed me a
I
cream
felt that
envelope.
knot in my
My
stomach.
name was on it
The
at my
logical part of
father's
my brain
funeral.
was whispering,
I thought
this
the
is a
hardest
bad
part
idea.
would be seeing the casket.
But the
I
emotional
was
part,
wrong
the
halfway
part that had
through
a
the
decade
service.
of memories with
The
this
funeral
man,
director
was shouting.
handed me a cream
How could I
envelope.
say no?
My name was on
If our
it
roles
at
were
my
reversed,
father's
he'd do
funeral.
the same for
I
me.
thought the
Or at
hardest
least,
part
the
would
man
be
I
seeing
thought
the
he was
casket.
would.
I was wrong halfway
Okay,
through the
I
service.
said, my voice barely
The
a
funeral
whisper.
director
Okay, what do you
handed
need?
me a cream envelope.
I'll email
My
you the
name was
wire
on it
instructions
at
right
my
now from my
father's
business
funeral.
account, he
I
said,
thought
the
the
relief
hardest
in his
part
voice
would be
washing over
seeing
the
the
phone.
casket. I
It
was
has to be
wrong
done before
halfway
5
through the
p.m.
service.
You're a
The
lifesaver.
funeral
I owe you
director
everything.
handed me a cream
The email
envelope.
arrived a minute
My
later.
name was on
It looked
at my
completely
father's
legit.
funeral.
It came from his
I
business
thought the
email
hardest
address,
part
had
would
the
be
company
seeing the
logo,
casket.
and all
I
the
was
banking
wrong
info,
halfway
an
through the
account number,
service.
routing
The
number,
funeral
the name of a
director
holding company.
handed me a cream
The subject
envelope.
line was,
My name was
urgent,
on it at my
wire
father's
instructions for
funeral.
property
I
deposit.
thought the hardest part
That
would
urgency
be
is a
seeing
key
the
tactic.
casket. I was
Scammers
wrong
use pressure to
halfway
make you
through the
act before
service.
you can think.
The funeral
My hands
director
were shaking as I
handed
logged
me a
into my
cream
bank account.
envelope.
I
My name was
triple-checked the
on it
numbers,
at my
account
father's
number,
funeral.
routing number,
I thought
amount,
the hardest part would be seeing the casket.
$100,000.
I was wrong
I stared at
halfway
that
through
number,
the service.
the sum of my entire
funeral
adult life's
director
work.
handed me a
Then I
cream
thought of Mark,
envelope.
my brother,
name
finally
was on
getting
it
his win.
at my father's
I
funeral.
clicked Submit.
I thought the hardest
confirmation
part would be
page
seeing
loaded.
the casket.
The money was
I was
gone.
wrong halfway through
In
the
that second, I
service.
felt a bizarre
The
mix of
funeral
terror
director
at the empty account
handed me a
and
cream
pride that I
envelope.
could help my
name
friend
was
in
on
his
it
hour of
at my
greatest
father's
need.
funeral.
It was a
I
feeling
thought
that
the
would
hardest
soon
part
curdle
would
into
be
the
seeing
bitterest
casket.
regret of my
I
life.
was wrong
The first week was
halfway
quiet.
through the service.
I figured he was buried
the
in
funeral
paperwork,
director
closing the deal of a
handed me a
lifetime.
cream envelope.
I sent him
My
a text
name was
after
on
a few
it
days.
at my father's
Hey
funeral.
man, hope everything went
I thought
smoothly.
the hardest part would
Hours
be
later,
seeing
I
the
got a
casket.
reply.
I was
One
wrong
sentence.
halfway through the service.
Still working through it.
The funeral
Crazy
director
stuff. Talk
handed
soon.
me a cream envelope.
Something
My
felt
name was
off.
on it
Mark
at my
was a
father's
talker.
funeral.
A
I
crazy
thought
deal
the
should have
hardest
gotten me
part
an
would be
excited
seeing the
call,
casket.
but I pushed
I
the
was
feeling
wrong
down.
halfway
He's
through
busy,
the service.
I told myself.
The funeral director
10 business days came
handed
and
me a
went.
cream
The day he
envelope. My
swore the
name
money
was
would
on
be
it
back.
at my father's
Nothing.
funeral.
My bank
I thought
account
the
was still
hardest
empty.
part would be
Now
seeing the
that
casket.
cold knot
I
was back in
wrong
my stomach.
halfway through the
I called him,
service.
straight to
The funeral
voicemail.
director
I called again.
handed me a cream
Voicemail.
envelope.
I sent a
My
text.
name was on it
Hey
at my
Mark, just
father's
checking in on the
funeral.
loan.
I
The 10
thought
days
the
are up.
hardest
Let me know
part
what's going
would be
on.
seeing the casket.
The 3
I
little
was
dots
wrong
popped up.
halfway through the
He was
service.
typing.
The
And then they
funeral
vanished.
director
No
handed me
reply.
a cream
But the
envelope.
message was
My
marked
name
as
was on it
read.
at my father's
Now
funeral.
real panic set
I
in.
thought the hardest
Ice in the
part would be
veins.
seeing the
This wasn't
casket.
like him.
I was
He
wrong
wouldn't just
halfway
ghost
through
me.
the
Not over
service.
this.
The funeral
My mind
director
raced. Maybe
handed
the
me a
deal
cream
fell through.
envelope.
Maybe
My
he was
name
too
was on
ashamed
it
to tell
at
me
my
he'd lost the
father's
money.
funeral.
That had
I
to be
thought
it.
the hardest part
But to not
would be
even
seeing
answer?
the casket. I
The
was
trust
wrong
was starting to
halfway
crumble.
through the service.
I needed to find
The
that original
funeral
email
director
with the wire
handed me a
instructions.
cream
Maybe I
envelope.
could contact
My
the
name was on
bank,
it
the holding
at my
company,
father's
something.
funeral.
I
I
opened my
thought the
laptop
hardest
and
part
searched my
would be
email
seeing
for
the
his message.
casket. I
I
was
found the
wrong
thread,
halfway through
my
the
heart
service.
pounding, and
The
opened the
funeral
email with
director
the wire
handed me a
details.
cream envelope.
And that's
My
when
name
I
was
saw
on
it.
it at my
Something
father's
so
funeral.
small,
I
so
thought the
tiny,
hardest part
that I'd
would be
completely
seeing the
missed it in my
casket.
rush.
I was wrong
The
halfway
sender's
through the
email
service.
address.
The
I'd seen
funeral
his name,
director
Mark
handed me
Peterson,
a cream
and his business
envelope.
avatar.
My name was on it
But the
at my
actual
father's
address,
funeral.
it wasn't
I thought the hardest
mark.peterson
part
at
would be seeing the casket. I was
marks-ventures.com.
wrong
It was
halfway through the service.
mark.peterson at marks-venture.com.
Handed me
The
a
S
cream
was missing.
envelope. My
A
name was
spoofed
on it.
email.
At my
A
father's
scammer's
funeral.
trick. Changing
I thought
one
the hardest
tiny
part
character,
would be seeing
counting
the
on you
casket.
not to
I
notice.
was wrong halfway
My
through
blood
the
ran
service.
cold.
The
It felt like the
funeral
floor
director
had dropped out from
handed
under
me a
me.
cream envelope.
This wasn't a
My
failed
name
deal.
Was on it.
This
At
was
my
a
father's
deliberate
funeral.
deception.
I thought
But
the
by
hardest
who?
part would
A
be
hacker?
seeing the casket.
Or was it?
I was wrong
No,
halfway through
I couldn't
the
let my
service.
mind go there.
The funeral
I started
director
digging. I became
Handed me a cream
obsessed.
envelope.
I tore
My
through
name was
every
on it.
email
At
and
my
text
father's
between us for the
funeral.
past year,
I thought the
desperate
hardest
to find
part
proof
would
of
be
a
seeing the
hacker.
casket.
Any
I was
explanation
wrong
other than the
halfway
one
through the
forming in the back
service.
of my head.
The funeral
And then I
director
found it.
handed
The
me a cream
smoking gun.
envelope. My name
It was sitting
on
right
it.
there,
At my
in an
father's
email
funeral.
I'd gotten 2
I
months
thought
earlier
the
and
hardest
completely
part would be
ignored.
seeing the casket.
The subject line
I
was
wrong halfway through
Forward,
the service.
Project
The
Seagull.
funeral director
I must have seen
handed
it,
me a
figured
cream
it was a butt
envelope.
dial
My name
email
was
and
on
swiped it
At my
away.
father's funeral.
I clicked on it.
I thought the
My
hardest
heart
part would be
stopped.
seeing the casket.
It was a
I was
forwarded
wrong
email
halfway
chain
through the
from
service.
Mark to a
The
name I didn't
funeral director
recognize, and he had
handed me a
accidentally
cream
copied
envelope.
me.
My name
The
was on it.
conversation was a
At my
blueprint
father's
for the
funeral.
entire crime.
I thought the
The
hardest
first
part
email from
would be
Mark to
seeing
this
the
stranger
casket.
read,
I was wrong
"He's getting ready to
halfway
move the
through the
full
service.
100,000.
The
He
funeral
just told me.
director
The timeline
handed
is
me a cream
accelerating.
envelope.
We need
My
to be
name
ready
was
to
on it.
execute the
At my
urgent
father's
opportunity
funeral.
plan next
I
week."
thought the hardest part
The stranger
would be seeing
replied,
the casket.
"Is he
I
going to
was
question
wrong
the wire
halfway through the
instructions?
service.
We can't have any
The
loose
funeral
ends."
director
And then,
handed me a
Mark's
cream
reply.
envelope. My name
The
was on
words
it.
burned
At
into my
father's
memory
funeral.
forever.
I
He
thought
won't.
the hardest
He
part
trusts
would
me
be seeing the
completely.
casket.
He thinks
I
of me
was
as a
wrong
brother.
halfway
When I
through
tell
the
him it's an
service.
emergency, he won't
The
even
funeral
blink.
director
He's the perfect
handed me a
Mark.
cream envelope.
Just make sure the
My name
spoofed
was on
email
it.
address is
At
ready
my
to go.
father's funeral.
The venture
I
without
thought
the
the
S
hardest
is
part
good.
would be seeing
Subtle
the
enough.
casket. I was wrong
I read it
halfway
again
through
and again, the
service.
words blurring
The
through
funeral
tears.
director
The perfect
handed me a
Mark.
cream envelope.
That's what I was
My
to him.
name was
Not
on
a
it.
friend,
At my
not a
father's
brother,
funeral.
a target.
I thought the
The
hardest
betrayal
part
was so
would be seeing
absolute,
the
so
casket.
complete.
I was
It felt like a
wrong
physical
halfway through
blow.
the service.
He hadn't just stolen my
funeral
money,
director
he'd stolen a
handed
decade of
me a
my
cream
life, a
envelope.
decade
My
of
name was
memories
on
now
it. At
tainted
my
by this
father's
monstrous
funeral.
lie.
I thought
He
the
used our
hardest part
history,
would
our
be seeing the
jokes, my
casket.
trust,
I was
all of
wrong
it,
halfway
as
through the
weapons
service.
against me.
The
The
funeral
emails didn't
director
lie. My
handed me
best
a
friend
cream
had meticulously
envelope. My
and
name was on
ruthlessly
it.
planned
At
to
my
steal my
father's
entire
funeral.
life
I
savings.
thought the
That was the
hardest
moment
part
my
would be
world
seeing the
shattered.
casket. I
The
was
proof
wrong
was
halfway
undeniable.
through the service.
The man I thought I
The
knew
funeral
was
director
gone.
handed
Before
me a
I tell you
cream
what I did
envelope.
next,
My name
let me
was
know in
on
the
it.
comments,
At my
have you ever
father's
had that
funeral.
gut feeling
I
that
thought
something
the
was
hardest
wrong,
part
even
would
with
be seeing
someone
the
you
casket.
trusted
I was
completely?
wrong
And if
halfway
this
through the
story is hitting
service.
home,
The
consider
funeral
subscribing
director
because what I learned
handed me a
next
cream
could save you
envelope.
from this
My name was
exact
on it.
nightmare.
At my father's funeral. I thought the
For a few
hardest
hours,
part
I was just
would be seeing the
paralyzed,
casket.
staring at the
I was
screen.
wrong halfway
But
through the
then,
service.
the grief and the
The
shock
funeral
started to
director
curdle into
handed
cold,
me a cream
hard
envelope.
rage.
My name was on
He was
it.
not getting
At my
away with
father's
this.
funeral.
I didn't
I
call or
thought the
text.
hardest part
He was a
would be
master of
seeing the
words and
casket.
could deny
I was
anything
wrong
over the
halfway
phone.
through the service.
But he couldn't talk his
The
way out of his
funeral
own
director
writing. I
handed
printed
me a
the
cream
emails,
envelope.
all
My
of them.
name was on it.
The
At my
Project
father's
Seagull
funeral.
thread, the
I
spoofed
thought the
wire
hardest
request,
part would be
everything.
seeing the
I put them in a
casket. I
folder,
was
got in
wrong
my car, and
halfway
drove
through
to
the
his house.
service.
When he
The
opened the door,
funeral
he had this
director
fake, pitying
handed me a
smile
cream
on his face,
envelope. My
probably
name was on
rehearsed to
it.
tell me
At
the
my
deal
father's
fell
funeral.
through.
I thought
"Hey,
the
man,
hardest part
I was
would
just
be
about to
seeing
call
the
you,"
casket.
he
I
started.
was wrong
I walked
halfway
right
through
past
the
him into his
service.
living room.
The
Without a
funeral
word, I took the
director
printed emails
handed
and
me a
laid them
cream
out,
envelope.
one
My
by
name
one,
was
on his
it.
coffee
At my
table.
father's
The
funeral.
color drained from
I
his
thought the
face.
hardest
The fake
part
smile
would be seeing the
dissolved.
casket.
His
I
eyes
was
darted
wrong
from page to
halfway through the
page.
service.
I saw the
The
recognition,
funeral
then the
director
dawning horror
handed
that he
me
was
a cream
caught.
envelope.
He looked
My
up at
name was
me,
on it.
his mouth
At my
opening and
father's
closing
funeral.
like a fish.
I thought the
"The
hardest
perfect
part would
Mark,"
be seeing
I
the
said, my
casket.
voice
I was
dangerously
wrong
quiet.
halfway through
"That's
the
what you
service.
called me."
The funeral
He started
director
stammering.
handed me a cream
That's not,
envelope. My
you don't
name was on
understand,
it.
I was
At my
hacked.
father's funeral.
Hacked?
I thought
I
the
laughed,
hardest
but there was
part
no
would
humor
be
in it.
seeing the casket.
"You
I
accidentally
was
forwarded
wrong
me your
halfway
entire
through the
plan 2
service.
months ago, Mark.
The funeral director
Project Seagull,
handed me a
the
cream
spoofed
envelope.
email.
My
It's
name
all
was
right
on
here."
it. At my father's
He just
funeral.
collapsed onto the couch
I
and
thought
put his
the
head in his
hardest part
hands.
would be
The
seeing
facade
the
was
casket.
gone.
I was
The
wrong
charismatic
halfway through the
entrepreneur, the
service.
loyal friend,
The
it
funeral
all
director
evaporated, leaving a
handed me
pathetic
a cream
thief.
envelope.
He
My
confessed
name was on
everything.
it.
There
At
was
my
no
father's
deal.
funeral.
He was in deep,
I thought the
crippling
hardest
debt to
part
loan
would be
sharks.
seeing the
My
casket.
$100,000 wasn't for a
Halfway through the
deposit.
service,
It was to save his
the
own
funeral
skin.
director
He never intended to
handed
pay
me
it
a
back.
cream envelope.
The next
My
day, I
name was
walked
on
into a
it
police
at my
station and
father's
filed a
funeral.
report for wire
I
fraud.
thought the hardest
I gave
part
everything
would
to
be
the
seeing the
FBI's
casket.
Internet
I
Crime
was
Complaint
wrong
Center,
halfway
the
through the service.
IC3.
The
I was
funeral
now a
director
statistic. I was one of
Handed me
the
a cream
thousands of
envelope.
victims of
My
what's
name
called
was on
business
it. At my
email
father's
compromise,
funeral.
or
I
BEC,
thought the
a
hardest
scam that
part
now
would be
accounts for
seeing the
billions in
casket.
losses
I was
every
wrong
year.
halfway
In
through the
fact,
service.
losses reported to the
funeral
FBI
director
from all types of
handed me a
internet
cream
crime
envelope.
reached a
My name
staggering
was on it. At my
$16.6
father's
billion
funeral.
in
I thought the
2024
hardest
alone,
part would
a
be seeing the
33%
casket. I
increase
was
from the year
wrong
before.
halfway
The
through
legal
the
process
service.
is still
The
ongoing,
funeral
and I've had
director
to accept a harsh
handed me a
reality.
cream envelope.
When this
My
happened,
name was
I was
on
told
it.
that
At
getting
my
money back
father's
from a
funeral.
wire transfer
I
was
thought
nearly
the hardest
impossible.
part would
But
be
I've since
seeing the
learned that's
casket.
not
I
entirely
was
true
wrong
anymore.
halfway through the
While
service.
it's still very
The
difficult,
funeral
recovery is
director
becoming more
handed me
possible.
a cream
Some
envelope.
specialized
My name
recovery
was on it.
services have
At
seen
my
success
father's
rates as
funeral.
high as
I thought the
69%,
hardest part
recovering
would be
millions
seeing
for
the
victims in
casket. I was wrong
2025.
halfway
But
through
the
the
best
service.
defense is
The
always
funeral
prevention.
director
The
handed me a
shame and
cream
anger were
envelope. My
overwhelming.
name was on
I
it.
kept
At
asking
my
myself,
father's funeral.
how could I have been so
I thought the
stupid?
hardest part
But
would
I've
be
learned
seeing
that
the
this feeling is
casket.
part of the
I was
scam.
wrong halfway
They
through the
prey on our
service.
best
The
qualities,
funeral
our trust,
director
and our willingness to
handed
help.
me a cream envelope.
My story is
My name
personal,
was
but the
on it.
methods are
At my
textbook.
father's funeral.
And now,
I thought
these
the
criminals
hardest
are using
part would be
AI to
seeing
make
the
their attacks
casket.
even
I
more
was wrong
convincing,
halfway through the
crafting
service.
flawless emails,
The funeral
mimicking
director
writing styles,
handed
and
me
even
a cream
creating voice
envelope.
clones
My
that are
name was
almost
on it.
impossible
At
to
my
spot.
father's funeral.
So how do you
I
protect
thought the
yourself from
hardest
this
part would
nightmare?
be seeing the
I learned the
casket.
hard
I
way.
was wrong
First,
halfway
the
through
most
the
important
service.
rule:
The funeral
verify
director
everything.
handed me a
Never
cream
ever
envelope.
transfer
My
money
name
based
was
on
on
an
it.
email
At
or
my
text
father's
alone.
funeral.
Pick up the
I
phone
thought
and
the
call the
hardest
person on a
part
number
would be
you
seeing
know
the
is
casket.
theirs,
I was
not
wrong
one from the
halfway
email.
through the
A
service.
2-minute call would
The
have saved me
funeral director handed
$100,000
me a
and a
cream
decade of
envelope.
friendship.
My name was
And
on it.
today,
At my
with
father's
AI voice
funeral.
cloning, it's
I
even
thought the
smarter to
hardest
use
part would be
technology-backed
seeing the
identity
casket. I
confirmation
was wrong
tools
halfway
or
through
ask a
the
question
service.
only the real
The
person
funeral
would know.
director handed me
Second,
a cream
inspect
envelope.
email
My name was
addresses.
on it.
Look
At
for
my
those
father's
tiny
funeral.
misspellings like
I thought
venture
the
instead of
hardest part
ventures.
would be
It's a
seeing the
classic red
casket.
flag.
I was wrong
But be
halfway
aware,
through the
AI
service.
is making these
The
scams
funeral
harder to spot,
director
so this can't be
handed me
your
a
only
cream
defense.
envelope. My name
Third,
was on it. At
resist
my father's
urgency.
funeral.
If a
I
message
thought the
screams
hardest
urgent
part would
or
be seeing the
act now,
casket. I
it
was
should be your
wrong
signal to
halfway
slow
through the
down, not
service.
speed up.
The
That
funeral
pressure is
director
designed to make you
handed me
panic
a
and
cream
miss the red
envelope.
flags.
My name was on
And
it.
finally,
At my
if the
father's
worst
funeral.
happens,
I
act
thought the
immediately.
hardest part would be
Contact
seeing
your
the
bank
casket.
instantly and
I
ask
was
for a
wrong
wire
halfway
recall.
through the service.
Then file a
The
report with
funeral
the
director
FBI's Internet
handed
Crime
me a cream
Complaint Center
envelope.
at
My name was on it. At my
ic3.gov.
father's funeral.
Every
I
second
thought the
counts.
hardest
Losing my
part
life
would be
savings
seeing
was
the
a brutal
casket.
blow,
I was wrong
but losing the
halfway
person
through
I
the
considered my
service.
brother was
The funeral
infinitely
director
worse.
handed
I'm
me a
rebuilding
cream
my finances
envelope.
from
My name
zero,
was on
and
it. At my
slowly,
father's
I'm
funeral.
rebuilding my ability
I
to
thought the
trust.
hardest part
The
would be
scars
seeing
from
the
this
casket.
betrayal will
I was
probably
wrong
never
halfway
fade,
through the
but I
service.
refuse to be
The
just a
funeral
victim.
director
I refuse to
handed
let
me
the
a cream
shame
envelope.
silence
My
me,
name was
because
on it.
silence
At
is
my
what these
father's
predators
funeral.
count on.
I thought the
By
hardest
sharing my
part would
story,
be seeing
I'm
the
taking the
casket.
power
I
back.
was wrong
I
halfway
finally
through the
understood this
service.
wasn't my fault.
The funeral
I was
director
manipulated by someone
handed
who
me a cream
expertly
envelope.
exploited my
My name
trust.
was on it.
And if it can
At my
happen to
father's
me,
funeral.
with someone I knew for
I
a
thought the
decade,
hardest
it can
part
happen to
would be seeing
anyone.
the casket.
This
I was
story isn't
wrong
about the
halfway
money
through the
anymore.
service.
It's about knowing the
funeral
red
director
flags. It's
handed
about
me a cream
understanding the
envelope.
tactics
My
these
name was
scammers
on it.
use,
At
from
my
simple
father's
typos
funeral.
to
I
sophisticated
thought the
AI.
hardest part
It's
would
about
be seeing
fighting
the
back with
casket.
awareness.
I was wrong
If this
halfway
story
through the
helped you,
service.
please
The
share it with
funeral
someone you
director
care about.
handed
It
me
could
a
be the
cream
one thing that
envelope.
saves
My
them
name
from a
was on
similar
it.
fate. And subscribe for more on how to fight back against fraud. Thanks for listening.